message will get out, because this is pivotal to the broader debate of whether it's biodiversity or cultural diversity, the monocultures that are pervading the globe. And I think it's also worsening by the wireless revolution, where I see basically addicted wireless zombies around me everywhere. Besides the health implications, which are going to be huge, the environmental health implications. So my question is regarding how widely will this get out to NGOs, to schools, because this is a debate that has to happen. Thank you.
You know, that's always hard to say. A film that is sort of this far out of the mainstream discussion, you know, a lot of doors will close in your face. Unfortunately, it's sort of, you know, certain points of view are marginalized in our society, and it can be difficult to get around that, and that's why these guys are so great for having the film here, and you guys are so great for coming. But I think we have to hope that some of those wireless zombies may actually, you know, help us spread the word a little bit. You know, we're just going to explore our options and try to get it out. We have gotten interest, a lot of interest from indigenous groups and from groups that are working in education programs overseas. So, and we're going to be providing DVDs free of charge to nonprofit groups that are interested in screening it and using it as part of their work.
Why don't we move this way across and start with you, please?
First of all, I want to say thank you very much. I'm actually in my second year of my doctoral program in education studies, so I really appreciate that. And the majority of the work that I've done actually is with the Roma population in Europe, particularly in former Yugoslavia. And given everything that's going on right now, of course, everyone suddenly wants to pay attention to people that nobody did before, and the answer is education, right? And as somebody who lived there and who speaks some of the dialects there, I can see some of the advantages in terms of functioning in the society that's been created around them. There's absolutely some advantages, and then yet there's also this. And so I'm wondering what, if any, conversation you've had with people in Europe, and also just how much you want to broaden this in order to kind of look for solutions. At the very end, it said, you know, it needs to be a dialogue. Well, what does that dialogue look like? Do we have some good models of that? We saw one clip. Problems. That's good, but working with somewhere so that we don't have more Heidis would be probably even better.
Yeah, I think, you know, we shot the film in Ladakh because, you know, we had a good entree there through Helena, actually, who's worked there for over 30 years. But it does just stand in for a process that's happening all over the world, that's happening right here in North America, and continues to this day, because Indigenous children, you know, they're depending on your culture and how well or poorly it meshes with the model of education, the style of abstract thinking, sort of decontextualized knowledge. You know, different cultures mesh more or less well with that, and when they mesh less well, there's a high failure rate among the children, and children who are lovely human beings with much to offer are, you know, made to feel like failures. So I think the thing is that in terms of spreading the word, one of the biggest problems, I think, there's a book called The White Man's Burden by William Easterly, who used to work at the World Bank, and he doesn't get it about education, but he talks about how the failure of many aid programs comes because they have a kind of top-down way of thinking. Somebody sitting in an office far away comes up with a program and decides what's going to happen. And of course it doesn't happen. You know, it's not coming from the people themselves, it's not coming from the grassroots, it's not addressing the realities that they're living with. And so something else happens, you know, something happens, but it's not, you know, what was this utopia that was planned. So one of the central points, I think, is that we need to let go of that top-down thinking, which means that we don't have all the answers. We just have to approach life with a questioning point of view, talking to each other, you know, one at a time as equals. And I think the fundamental point of this film is that we are not talking to Indigenous people as our equals. We are talking as though we have the answers, and we do not have the answers. And in fact, you know, we're going to benefit by listening to them, some sort of exchange. But it means that we have to to tolerate not knowing what the outcome is, not knowing what all the solutions are, but it's just a process that we embark on.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Asif, and I'm also an educator, along with my colleague. And one thought that came to mind is that I still, see education as, as something value neutral. I think it's the ethics and values you bring into it that can make it either more of a challenge, like some of the examples you showed in the video, or something more positive, like you said, by bringing in voices of the people that, quote unquote, we want to learn from and learn with. So just like pluralism can be something that could be negative or could be positive, I think it's the values that we bring into it. So I just as a thought that came to mind from the movie, and I know I'd love to use the video in my class right now. We're teaching about ethics and development, but it's human pathways to ethical development. So I think it'd be interesting to use in our classroom. If we get the email.
Yes. The one thing I would say to that is I would differ with you. I don't think it's value neutral.
Okay.
There are some structural things. The school, we think of schools as though they were just a fact of nature, but it's really a very recent social experiment. And the structure of schooling as we know it was created at a time when people were very racist and very classist. And so there is an intrinsic design for school to be a sorting mechanism where certain children will be identified and funneled into the elite positions of power, and other children are going to be labeled as failures, and they are going to be our workforce and our unemployed who keep our workforce just scared enough that they kind of go along with, the program. So this labeling of children as successes and failures, to me, is not value neutral. It is not necessary. Other cultures don't do this to their children. They don't take a percentage of them and throw them onto this party. In other cultures, there's a notion that everybody is good enough. Everybody is fine. And then if you choose to become a healer and you pursue advanced knowledge of medicinal plants and rituals, that's great. It's great for you. It's like, being a jazz saxophonist or being, an artist. It's fine, but somebody else isn't diminished or disrespected because they didn't choose to do that. But that is what we do. We put children on the discard heap. And the other thing that's not value neutral is the business of the content of knowledge and curriculum being determined far away by some sort of power structure who then imposes this on families and communities. And families and communities are not given real choices about either the content or the mode of education. So, that is not a value neutral thing either. The other thing that's not value neutral is just the notion that children must be taken away from their parents and taught by strangers who are paid, again, by someone far away to do that. So there are quite a few structural things that are not value neutral.
Sorry, I guess I don't see the idea of school as being part of the education program by default. So when I said value neutral,
okay.
I actually meant that what you're talking
Right.
about, like, we don't have that system of exactly the grading or the fail pass,
Mm-hmm.
and of having an education in a community, and what does that mean? How does the community become involved in the education?
Right.
So not that we have a perfect system, but that's, I think, our aim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.